On remote mountaintops, eyes scan the horizon for signs of fire. There used to be hundreds of active lookouts in Idaho. Now only a handful are staffed. A few have been restored as alluring backcountry rentals. Some still stand tall but idle. And others, they're melting back into the mountains. Outdoor Idaho brings you the story of Idaho's fire lookouts, the eyes of the forest.
Funding for Outdoor Idaho is made possible by the Friends of Idaho Public Television, by the Laura Moore Cunningham Foundation, committed to fulfilling the Moores' legacy of helping to build the great state of Idaho, by the Corporation for Public Broadcasting, and the Idaho Public Television Endowment.
It was built in the 1930s, remodeled in 1958, and since then, Sunset Lookout in the Boise National Forest has withstood hundreds of storms that course through this region. Hi, I'm Bruce Reichert, and welcome to Outdoor Idaho. You know, at 7,800 feet, Sunset is the highest point around. That means from here you can spot fires when they're still just smokes, call them in, and maybe save a forest. With expansive skies and endless views, mountaintops are inspiring places. They lure poets, prophets, and those simply seeking solitude. They also provide a huge panorama of dense forests and deep valleys. In the 20th century, these high points became home to hundreds of men and women known as fire watchers. They were intent on spotting smokes and chasing fires. Lookouts became the eyes of the forest and the protectors of the land. At their height, more than 8,000 lookouts dotted the nation. But no state boasted more than Idaho. At one time, around 1,000 locations in the Gem State were home to lookouts and their forest guardians.
Fire lookouts began as a matter of convenience. A likely tree and a likely spot on a mountaintop or a ridge top. They would put a ladder, either a wooden rung ladder, or maybe they'd drive large spikes in the tree and climb it. In Idaho, there were probably 100 of these tree lookouts in the beginning. They went from there to more of them. A lot of them were built during the CCC era in the 1930s. And their intent was to put a lookout on every mountaintop. And it was kind of like a one-man fire department. The lookout would spot the fire, and if he was the closest one to it, he would take off. And either the smoke went out or else they sent the whole gang in. And that's how they were done, and it was very effective. And they were able to keep fires small by jumping on them quick.
Ray Cresic knows plenty about both lookouts and firefighting. He was only 16 when he landed his first job as a lookout. Later, he spent 35 years with the Spokane Fire Department. But it was those memories of life on the lookout that fueled his passion. He spent years researching and writing the definitive book on lookouts of the Northwest. And in the process, he visited over 1,000 mountaintops and even established a remarkable fire museum in his own backyard.
Just about every item that was ever in a fire lookout is in this museum, along with a lot of antiquated fire tools, and more than 50 old radios, telephones. The whole fire protection system is represented in this little lookout museum. I don't know just where it's going to go, but someday it'll be in a much more appropriate place than our house. Lookouts started to decline at the end of World War II. The coming of the aircraft for air patrol purposes was somewhat more thrifty, but not as efficient. Nothing is more efficient than someone sitting in a lookout tower 24 hours a day and someone sitting in another lookout 5 or 10 miles away to be able to triangulate a cross shot with the firefinder on a smoke. Nothing's more efficient than that.
The Civilian Conservation Corps period was a boom time for lookouts on the national forests, and many structures were built throughout the state during the CCC heydays of the 1930s. But an event years earlier prompted the first big push for lookouts by a then young Forest Service.
And what really is the catalyst for the fire lookout evolved out of the fires of 1910. That really urged the agency to get into fire detection, and they wanted eyes on the forest 24 hours a day. So you see this huge increase all the way up to about World War II.
According to Ray Cresic, an even earlier big fire was the catalyst for the very first lookout in Idaho. That lookout was created by a timber company's protection group back before the Forest Service was even established.
Fire lookouts began in Idaho in 1902 with a place called Bera Hill, north of headquarters. And it was all a result of a giant fire that had happened in Washington. It burned several 100,000 acres of prime timber, and it woke up the timber industry to the idea that we need to detect these fires and get on them quick.
Bera Hill was one of the first mountaintops selected by early fire protection leaders to be centrally located in the vast Clearwater Mountains to locate and detect early forest fires. So in the early 1900s, they had the actual cook from the timber cruisers camp would go up to the mountaintop and climb a tree and throughout the day watch for fires. Throughout the years after that, lookouts were established and constructed on the mountaintop of Bera Hill. But it was one of the first forest lookouts in the nation and in the western states.
Bera Hill may also be the nation's longest-running forest lookout location. The original tree lookout is long gone, as are a succession of earlier wooden structures. But the steel tower built in 1958 continues to play a vital role in protecting the local forest. It's one of the many firefighting tools of the Clearwater Potlatch Timber Protective Association.
The Clearwater Potlatch was formed in 1905 and really has operated through the years and provided a level of fire and forest protection to about 1 million acres in the Clearwater Mountains north of Orofino.
The association's philosophy from the very beginning has been to get fires early and keep them small. A small fire is a lot easier to put out than a big one. And that philosophy is the same now as it was 100 years ago when we started out. The airplanes have taken up a lot of the slack. They fly their patrols daily and sometimes twice daily as we get into the more extreme conditions, but they're not there 24/7. And that's where the extra eyes come in. The extra eyes there all the time make the difference for us.
Mike, I think we're looking just the other side of Dead Horse.
At one time in Idaho and in the western states, there was hundreds of mountaintop lookouts. As the years progressed, the need for mountaintop lookouts has reduced. But today we still look and view the need to have good detection from a mountaintop when aircraft is not flying. And the combination of aircraft and mountaintop lookouts provide a very effective fire detection system with basically around-the-clock detection.
There's another Idaho Firefighting Association that's also more than 100 years old and still going strong. The Southern Idaho Timber Protective Association got its start just after the turn of the century.
Well, right around 1904, the idea of the Timber Protective Associations originated in the state of Idaho. And at one point there were 7 Timber Protective Associations, and there are now 2 remaining. The Clearwater Potlatch and Southern Idaho Timber At one time, SITPA extended clear around to Fairfield along the Boise front and had a string of 7 of these lookouts. And they were constructed on a similar pattern with the idea of permanence and a presence.
No Business Lookout south of McCall is the last remaining example of these grand structures. They were built by the CCC in the 1930s under the leadership of Harry Shellworth. Shellworth started SITPA and ran it for nearly 50 years. He was also in charge of the CCC.
Of course, him being the head of Southern Idaho Timber Protective Association and being the head of the Civilian Conservation Corps in Idaho, he culminates these perfect buildings that really showcase the work of the Civilian Conservation Corps. And he built probably the fanciest lookouts in Idaho and wanted the public to come up and see it so he could inform the public about fire prevention and how to go about it. And he called his lookouts the Gold Lace Lookouts, and No Business is the last remaining of those, and it is really a showcase lookout, probably one of the finest in Idaho, and Southern Idaho still uses an active lookout.
It's a different style than any place I've ever seen. It's the log cabin, 2 stories, the lightning harness that surrounds the structure itself, and the craftsmanship, the woodworking. Obviously, parts have been replaced over the years. It's had a number of changes. But the craftsmanship, the permanence, and the living quarters were the Cadillacs of the lookout system.
I think what's so neat for me is that it's one of those buildings that has always been there. And I can remember going up there as a kid, and it's fun to go back to the same place year after year and see the landscape. And then a lot of the places become tradition to go to for me.
The culture of the people that live and work in these areas is changing all the time. And these lookouts have always been a point that I can go back to, and they provide me that sense of place that says, this is our country out here.
It's country the association still protects, 500,000 acres in all. Today they have 3 active lookouts, including this one at Brundage Mountain. Brundage used to be very similar to No Business until it had to be replaced in 1982. But just below the mountaintop sits the oldest structure at this historic site, a lookout cabin built in 1914.
It's lifted off there a fair amount.
Richard Holm and other local volunteers are working to restore the structure.
These things are part of our history. These need to be preserved. And that's why it's important that we inform the public about them when we get groups together and volunteer and help rebuild them and save them.
Idaho's spectacular mountaintop viewpoints make it a compelling place to visit if you're fascinated by lookouts. So it was no surprise when the Forest Fire Lookout Association scheduled another one of their national conferences in Grangeville. CEO Keith Argo and other members of the group share valuable information at their annual meetings. But they also find time to check out some of the local lookouts, like Bera Hill.
Isaac Walton said God never took a day away that was spent fishing. I paraphrase that: God never took a day away from us that was spent on a lookout or working in a lookout, restoring lookouts, and as a result, we get a wonderful group of people.
I'm Pam Leonard from Lookout Mountain at Priest Lake.
The Forest Fire Lookout Association was founded by people that were fire tower operators and other people that just plain liked fire lookouts. And the goal was threefold. One was to identify inventory and keep a record of our lookouts, including the former sites. The second goal was to do restorations. And the third goal was to help agencies staff them if necessary with volunteers. You have a strong feeling you're making a difference. And you get a great satisfaction in knowing you are part of a growing movement. It just gives me real raison d'etre, wonderful reason for living.
I feel high up.
Lookouts are a special, special place. You can see forever. They're the perfect example of where you want to go on a hike. They're the high point that people love to visit. They're woven into the cultural web of what is rural America.
That's why Argo and his group work so hard to save and restore any lookouts they can. Part of their work includes placing structures on the National Historic Lookout Register. It's a list that now includes nearly 900 locations.
The lookouts are part of our heritage, and too often when we start thinking heritage, people talk hundreds of years ago, but they forget about the recent history that is a whole lot easier to record now than when it's 150 years old.
Gary Weber is the North Idaho, Montana director for the Forest Fire Lookout Association. He's been keeping track of various lookouts in the area for years. And though he'd like to, he can't save all the structures. One historic lookout near Coeur d'Alene, called Spades, is likely on its last leg.
Spades has been a lookout point since probably the early 30s, maybe even before that. Had several different structures on the site. The current lookout tower was built in the early 60s. One of the taller wooden towers around, actually, I believe it's probably the tallest wooden tower left in the state, 67 foot. But it was used for fire detection probably into the 1980s sometime. And it's basically just been left open to the public, to the elements, no maintenance, no care given to it at all. It does get a lot of traffic, a lot of visitors, some not always doing the best things, and we look now at the condition it's in. It's just one of those that really is taking a toll with the vandalism. And just looking at reality, it would be a huge undertaking to put it back into a serviceable condition for whatever purpose. Unfortunately, even though we like to save them all, this is one that, okay, if something had to go in preference to keeping something else, it's kind of a trade-off. Well, maybe it's best just to let this one go. If and when it does go, we're still going to do everything we can to record its history and at least preserve that aspect of it. Right now, out of the original almost 1,000, we've got somewhere over 150 lookout structures still standing in the state of Idaho. And of those, between 50 and 60 are still being used for fire detection. And there's another 10 or 12 in the rental program, and a lot of others that are having work done on them. We still do have a lot, and a good chunk of those that need some help that could go either way. With the right support, with everything lining up, they could be put back into some sort of use.
One lookout that has been restored and is now a very popular rental sits high above Lake Pend Oreille in northern Idaho. It's called Lunch Peak, and it's the last standing lookout with a cabin on the Sandpoint Ranger District. Mary Ann Hamilton not only runs the rental program, she's also an enthusiastic visitor.
Wow. It's been a while since we remodeled Lunch Peak, and I've never actually had the opportunity to stay in it. And once we got the opportunity, I almost couldn't wait to see what it would be like to stay up here. My expectations are for it to be very quiet and very dark. Nothing but sounds of nature. There's something maybe romantic about staying in a lookout overnight or seeing what you can see from up here, and I think your vistas are unlimited. It's pretty nice. I just thought it was a shame that this was going to fall into ill repair where it was going to be condemned. So over the course of 2 or 3 years, we remodeled it with like AmeriCorps groups and Boy Scout groups and other volunteers, and then we put it in the rental program, and it's been very successful. It's usually rented every night from July 1st to October 15th, pretty much sold out. And the vandalism is almost down to zero now. It's really been a great accomplishment. Well, I have a lot of personal satisfaction because there's a logbook up here. When you read through the logbook, people leave us wonderful notes. The memories that are being made up here is what we hear over and over and over and again. And that is a true part of the National Forest, to go out and make memories. And I think coming up here is very memorable for people and something they remember for a long time.
This is a tiny cat.
At another impressive lookout in northern Idaho, Pam Onnen has been making memories for well over 2 decades.
Anybody else want a ski-pole?
She's been heading up to her post at Lookout Mountain above Priest Lake for 25 years. The steep trail will take her to one of the few towers left that overlooks state forests. Pam is the last lookout working for Idaho's Department of Lands. And this hike is now a regular part of getting to her job.
It used to be a road all the way to the top, and it sort of just went away. It got to be unsafe. I rode an ATV for a couple years. After that, you couldn't get a truck up here. It's an old trail. It's been used for over 100 years. I think it's a beautiful trail. It's a beautiful walk. I don't know, I just think it's wonderful. It's hard, but I still like it. I think it's really good for me. I feel really lucky.
And when she reaches the top of the mountain and her home away from home, it's well worth the effort.
It's just an awesome place. It's a beautiful mountaintop. The lake is beautiful. Everything is beautiful. This is the outdoors. This is the great outdoors. And I can't help it. I have to have it. It's really important to me. Even the occasional really strong lightning storm, which might scare me and maybe kill me, is not enough to drive me away from it. It's just something I have to do.
The current tower Pam works from was put up in 1977. It's the 3rd structure at this location, standing right next to the original lookout cabin. This place has a long history of use.
As far as I know, this has been an observation point since over 100 years. 1909 is what I recall learning. And when they built the first cabin, that cabin out there, that was in 1929. And from that time, it was a lookout point then. That cabin has been refurbished quite a number of times, mostly by the Lookout Association, but the people are the Cresic family from Spokane. Ray Cresic grew up as a little boy following his dad around, laying the telephone wire to all these mountaintops. And he was hooked, and he was a lookout for a while. So they've really taken care of it. Okay, Abby, so this is a firefinder. Do you know what a map is?
Like Ray Cresic, Pam Onnen is also hooked.
Right in the very middle. That's where we are on this map.
Hooked on this unique lifestyle, on the freedom of a job she gets to do.
You look through there.
On a mountaintop.
I'm grateful. I'm grateful to be here. It just feels good up here for me. It's my spot. You know, I'm not doing this job because it's the money. I'm doing this job because I love this location, and for me, being up here is important. And frankly, I think it would be great for everybody to have time to spend time on a mountaintop. I think we'd all be the richer for it.
Those who have spent time on mountaintops understand the worth of these icons of the forest. Though many lookouts have been replaced by newer technologies, they are still a valid firefighting tool. And they have another value that is beyond measure, offering priceless opportunities to experience heritage, beauty, and solitude. Idaho's lookouts are doorways to the heavens, inspiring people who seek sanctuaries at the edge of the sky.
The lookouts that really remain are important not only as a PR standpoint and a fire detection standpoint, but as part of our state's history. I also think that there's no finer way than a fire lookout to see this state. I don't care which one you go to or you go to all 1,000 of them, but you get up to the top of that mountain and you see the places where we live. You can look around, you can get a scene like you wouldn't believe, and it's a unique experience. I think that that is why lookouts are such a crowning point to this state and this area.
Funding for Outdoor Idaho is made possible by the Friends of Idaho Public Television, by the Laura Moore Cunningham Foundation, committed to fulfilling the Moore's legacy of helping to build the great state of Idaho, by the Corporation for Public Broadcasting, and the Idaho Public Television Endowment. All Outdoor Idaho programs are available for purchase, including hour-long specials called Yellowstone's Cascade Corner, Idaho Edens, and Wooden Boat's Wondrous Lakes. To find more information about these shows, visit us at idahoptv.org.